Hey folks, welcome back to the Law and Crime Network. This is For the Record, and I'm Michael Bryant, along with Thomas Liotti in the studio here. Also with us today, Joseph Scott Morgan. We'll get to my guest very quickly. So thank you, Rachel. Just an idea what this case is all about, and it has been moving along rapidly, in part because the judge is telling these folks, move along rapidly. I heard that she wants to be done by Friday, but I don't know. So joining me in the studio again, famed trial attorney Thomas Liotti. How are you, sir?
I'm good, Mike.
Nice
Thanks for
to see
having
you.
me.
We were chatting
Good to be here.
just a little bit, and you know, we could just spend all day talking about your stories. But unfortunately, we don't have all that much time. You know, but you've represented politicians, defendants, which aren't mutually exclusive, of course.
I have.
And I want to get your take on this case before we move along. What do you think?
Well, I think the defendant here has got some real problems. I think it's a circumstantial evidence case, but it looks like there's a lot of circumstantial evidence. So I think her demeanor is very, very important from what I can see so far. And I don't think she's portraying herself in the best possible light. That's just my read on it from looking at the interview that she had for 2.5 hours with the police and so forth. She seems a little too confident, not enough humility showing there, and not enough of an explanation, as far as I can see, about the circumstantial evidence against her.
I'll tell you what is showing, a lot of skin. I wonder when she goes to an interview like this, I mean, is she just off spring break? I mean, why would you dress kind of provocatively? Is she trying to use that as a tool in her jousting with the investigators?
Well, you know, it occurred to me, frankly, that she is a very attractive woman, and perhaps she was coming on a little bit to the investigative police officer during that interview. And maybe she was hoping that because of her appearance, that maybe he would go a little bit light on her and be more accepting of her explanations.
Well, she's definitely a smarty, and we'll get into all the reasons that she's been convicted of conning people out of money and some of the other issues aside from what's going on in this trial. Also joining me, the man with 3 first names, Joseph Scott Morgan, forensic death investigator. How you doing, Joseph? Good to see you again.
Doing very well, Michael. How are you doing?
Doing well. So this is a circumstantial case, and I think the critical evidence is what was found with the body, the topsoil and the concrete blend, which, by the way, just happened to have been purchased at Home Depot and caught on video. But other than that, there is some disconnect from this defendant. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that there is. Just as our colleague mentioned a moment ago, there's kind of a level of arrogance. I think that for those individuals that have been involved in investigations in the past and have worked in law enforcement, there's this sense that I can go toe-to-toe with anybody. They know how the game is played. They dare to cross swords with these individuals. And sometimes it winds up as a real train wreck. You know, the discussion was just going on about perception. And that has a lot of weight with the jury. The jury, trust me, is already aware that this woman has been previously employed in the field of investigation. She has kind of an understanding of the way crime scenes work and this sort of thing. So they're factoring all of this into this. It's one part of the whole, as we say.
You know, let me ask you this. Let's take a look at a clip and we'll talk on the other side. You know, some of the characters in this case, not just the defendant, not just the victim, but the girlfriend of the victim, critical testimony, and maybe she's one of the neutrals being heard from by this jury. So let's take a look at Cassandra Waller and what she has to say when she testified yesterday. So there is Cassandra Waller, the victim's girlfriend, or is she? I'll tell you, Joseph Scott Morgan, one of the questions I have is this woman is one of only 2 people that had fingerprint or finger impression access to the victim's phone. And we know there's an issue in this case about a text being sent and received after the victim, Taylor Wright, was missing, perhaps after she was dead. Well, if I have access to that phone, wouldn't I be kind of suspect number 1?
Yeah, actually you would. And that was one of the things that was jumping to mind. What's the, you know, how valid are these texts that are going back and forth? You know, who is generating these things? And again, this is going to go back to kind of the timeline that we try to establish when we're looking forensically at a body and maybe to a certain degree the utility of what was done to get rid of the body, and marrying that up with a timeline. This case is all about timeline. Let's keep in mind she was last seen on September the 8th. We're downrange to October the 19th before her body is recovered from this grave. So there's every single minute has to be accounted for, and if there's some kind of duplicity that's afoot here, it needs to be uncovered and examined very carefully.
Tom, let me ask you a timeline question. In a circumstantial case like this, timeline is really everything. You need to drill that home to the jury. What's the best way to do that?
I think that you've hit on something that's very, very important, Michael, and that is there's a possible relationship here between Wright and MacArthur. And maybe Waller is acting out of jealousy and so forth because of this new relationship that has evolved between Wright and MacArthur. Now, why would Wright trust MacArthur with $34,000? It occurs to me that because there's a support proceeding that was ongoing in North Carolina or Florida, that perhaps she was trying to hide some money, but didn't trust Waller with that money. Instead, she trusted MacArthur with that money. So I think there's some kind of animosity there between Waller and MacArthur that I would be playing on.
Yeah, I like that. And I also think, even though Taylor Wright may have bad character choices in terms of who to trust her money with, you don't normally figure you'd kill somebody as a result of that bad choice. But why would you give that kind of money, $34,000? We know it seems she was trying to hide that from her estate relating to child support payments owed to her ex-husband. But why would you give it to somebody who, if you knew them well at all, knew that she already had issues with a con game with this whole jukebox ripoff scheme?
Yeah.
I wouldn't pick her to hold my money.
And here's Wright, an ex-cop, who must have known about the prior incident involving this theft that MacArthur was accused of and convicted of and so forth. But nonetheless, and maybe Love is speaking to us here about this relationship between Wright and MacArthur. But I'd be driving home that point as much as possible, and you hit on it.
Yeah, and I
That's
think in that interview, of course, MacArthur denied any sort of sexual relationship with Taylor Wright, the victim in this case, although she says that Ms. Wright did propose, how about a three-way with this other guy that I like? So anyway, the soap opera continues here. The court on a break right now, so I think we should take a break. We will do that, and we'll come right back. This is the Law and Crime Network. Stay where you are.